with that, we'll bring this meeting to order. Again, this is a workshop, so there's nothing will be voted on, merely discussed. And when we do speak, let's try to stay on point. There's a lot to cover, as Susan has so advised me, so this could be a while. So try to stay on point, and we'll get through this. First item on the agenda, property management. Guest speaker, Mr. Brown. The floor is yours.
For property management or the district?
You're under property.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah,
first?
let me start this
Okay,
off.
we'll let Mr. Gerald go first, and then
Okay.
get to you, Mr. Brown.
Myself, Mr. Brown, Mr. Fowle, and Mr. Akers met on March the 27th to discuss his project. And prior to that, I read the deed and I found a covenant in it that pertained to, no, I'll be glad to read it. Grantee hereby covenants and agrees that its successors and assigns shall not construct, install, maintain, or operate utilities on the premises, including, but not limited to, water, sewer, natural gas, electricity, telephone, internet, fiber optics, communication systems, and systems for the transmission of petroleum-based or other liquid and gaseous products consisting of cables, wires, lines, pipes, or other facilities without the prior written consent of the grantor, which is CSX, which consent may be withheld and grantor's sole and absolute discretion. Well, at that point in the meeting, I don't remember ever telling Mr. Brown no to anything, okay? I contacted CSX, and I talked to Miss Becky Snyder, which is a senior analyst with CSX, and she wrote me back an email, and I'll be glad to read it. I talked with our sales and title team, CSXT, is unable to remove the covenant. I had asked CSX to remove the covenant completely, and they refused to do that. However, the covenant allows for CSX's consent to install utilities for your planned patios and rest stops along the trail. I don't know where she come up with patios and rest stops. The city can request that consent by submitting a utility permit request using CSXT's online CSX property portal. So if we want to ask for a waiver for the utilities and stuff, we'd have to go through their portal. To get this started, guidance and contacts and design specifications and requirements are provided here. So permitting utility wireless infrastructure installations and right of entry, csx.com. Be sure to reference the deed in your application, which we have a copy of it. At that point, I discussed maybe with Mr. Akers pertaining to these covenants, and maybe Mr. Brown after that, I don't remember. But that's where we're at this particular point in time, and we just want Mr. Brown to explain exactly what he wants us to do from this point forward. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, sounds good.
So you're on the floor, Mr. Brown. I appreciate you being
Thank you,
here.
Mr. Gerald. Thank you.
You and Mr. Akers.
Good evening.
I'd also like to introduce Justin and Ashley Boyce. They are my business partners in the development. Mr. Akers is passing out the site survey with utilities boundary lines marked for your perusal as we go over a couple of things. Also on the phone, we have the architect, Kyle. Name just Kyle from Foursquare Architects in Winchester, Virginia. Kyle Hopkins. Sorry, his name flew right out of my head.
So you want me to lead, or you want? So with the map in front of you, everybody, that shows the property boundaries that Mr. Brown has highlighted in the brighter red color. And there's a fainter line, and with showing the walking trail right of way that CSX conveyed to the city when they purchased the rail trail system. So with that, with this development, what Mr. Brown and I have discussed is needing to extend utilities to these buildings such as water, sewer, stormwater, telecommunications, moving electricity to underground to better service this site. And with Ms. Gerald's discussion with the email with CSX, it sounds like this is a development that would need to, Mr. Brown would need to perform us or someone design the utility infrastructure that would be going in within this right of way, what right of entries there would need to be, permanent easements, construction easements to construct those. That would be designed to CSX's standard specifications, and then at that point, Mr. Brown would need the support from the city and city council in applying and submitting that to CSX for that application to be approved, denied, reviewed through that process. And that's kind of what you're seeking, is that support from the city to go through that process and support this project to move forward.
So would you say that's the very next step? Would you think that, Mr.? I mean, is this the first step and nothing else can be done until you get that?
Correct, because we would need to coordinate with all the utility providers on capacities and what they need
Sure.
and what those infrastructure needs are, what design requirements they have. So that would be that next step, is we would go through that process, and at that point, design those in accordance with CSX standards. City would obviously have a chance to review those as well, provide any comments, to provide back and forth. And once we all kind of are in good shape with the design and what's needed, the city would make the petition to CSX for that, for those right-of-ways to be installed.
Is that the way you see it too, Mr.
Yeah.
Gerald? I mean, it does, by the email, it looks like they would ask the city to do that on Mr. Brown's behalf. But I was just getting to the point, is that would be the next step in the process of this development?
Yes.
You just need us to sign off that you have our permission, or that you need us to help you apply for
Help
these
apply.
various things.
Correct.
That's what you need.
This would be the most straightforward way to accomplish this. Otherwise, we have developed kind of a go-around method, which would be a little bit more complicated and more expensive to execute. So this would be, a first phase. Second phase, again, it would then be talking about sidewalks, and I don't know if those need to be kind of done concurrently or if we need to phase those requests to them, or if we have their ear, if you have to outline the entire breadth of what would need to have happened there to further the project. The sidewalks, curbing, stormwater, all of those things would need to be engaged in conversation to be a part of this plan. And is it our understanding, I just want to be clear as to where we are with the city had a proposed development of the exterior landscape along the railroad trail. Is that project that we paid for by Destination by Design, is that project now kind of shelved and is not in any capacity moving forward? Because again, we were kind of built our exterior scape off of the city's proposal for that space. So, we just need to understand where the city is also with that particular project that was paid for by Destination by Design to begin the initial phasing of.
So have y'all talked to all the utility companies? Have y'all sit down and try to form a meeting to make sure all this occur? Because it sounds like to me they probably the next step in order for us to, my opinion is to even to discuss if you sit down with each one of the utilities.
I've had initial conversations with all the utilities for the site, questioning, okay, do you have capacity? Where is your system in relation to this? Do we need to have extensions? And the consensus that I've gotten back from those utilities is we have capacity, or capacity can be made available with some extension or an upgrade or something of that nature. So those initial discussions have happened, but in order to carry this kind of the next step.
Okay, good.
Okay, how long ago was that proposal about the landscaping? How long, when did that take
The
place?
presentation before the city was about last year.
Okay.
Yeah, about this time last year.
March of last year.
Jessica, do you know anything about the
No, I'm not.
cost or any of that?
I don't have, Leslie may have better idea than me on that, but I wasn't present for those.
It was part of the whole outdoor plan that had been phased,
Mhm.
and it was lower down on the list. The first things was the, I think was the Piney Creek, the land trust, and then it was gonna be the, in uptown, then it was gonna be the gravity trail. I think it was probably fourth or fifth on the list of the things. The
Mhm.
overall plan, the drawings cost us $300-some thousand. We never further went and decided, I mean, it was adopted, but were we gonna take the lift? It was a very ambitious plan. They were renderings that had been done, but that was, you know, that young man that led that whole thing has been gone for over a year and a half now, so.
Okay.
I know that the only thing that was associated with the plan was a $10 million price tag, and that was the development of the trails only that were there. The outdoor, the soft surface trails that were part of that plan. Nothing else had been given any type of amount.
So where is that funding to come from? Where is that funding to come
I think that's
from?
one reason that the plan was kind of,
Shelved.
yes, it was a very grand plan. When it was presented to us, it was told to us that it had been, you know, like the dream. What could Beckley do and dream and have? And it was a beautiful plan, and I personally felt like some of it was very impractical because I wondered where the resources were going to be. In the outdoor plan, there's probably a list of about 20 different grantors that you could write to. We were never very successful in the past getting abandoned mine lands money. They said there was some political with Governor Justice, but possibly now. You know, block grant money. There was some money out there, but to ever cover that much of a lift, we didn't think so after the plan had been conducted. And see, you have to remember now, Destination by Design was they were only contracted to do a design and a plan, not to help with the further about how it was supposed to be implemented or anything like that. It was just, they did public forums, they talked to people, what would you like to see? And that's what came out
So
of it.
that's what was paid for. It was just the plan. So the plan never did come into fruition.
Yeah, we
Okay.
adopted the plan and it's
Right.
there, but it's also like some of the other plans that we had taken up in the past, that we have them and we like them, but, and then especially in the economy at the time,
Mhm.
I know that we had some private partners who were at the very beginning of that, had been very open to working with us, but then in the middle of that, the economy had some problems and borrowing money became much more expensive than it had the year before, is what those private developers had told
Mhm.
us.
I'm just asking because I think that was probably before we took these council
Yes.
seats,
Oh,
and I
yes,
needed to know.
Certainly.
Yeah.
The plan started probably almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown?
We just needed to know where the city was with that project, because obviously, when we initially met with Kyle, our architect, we wanted to reach out to Destination by Design and pull them in to our, kind of the exterior scape, so that we could create some sort of synergy between the two projects. If there's no such, action or plan of action from the city, then, that it would be us then moving forward to develop the exterior scape for that. And then that could be a departure from what the city intended for,
Right.
The thing about it was one of the two owned properties that, because in the beginning, I had been critical of the fact that much of what they wanted to do was not on either city property and or owned by the city, which would mean that we would have to acquire the properties. So I think the rail trail and then the gravity park, because we own the top part of where the gravity park was where what we call the Fulcrum project, or the empty lot on Prince Street. And those were like the only two pieces of property that we actually owned in that. So they were included as possibilities for something we could do because we owned the property.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The design that Destination by Design came up with and is shelved to some degree doesn't change the fact that it was a very, very good design that had a lot of people
Sure.
really, really excited and the way to bring Beckley together with rails to trail as a main artery. Us developing that area does that plan for you. You know, if we can actually get those businesses up and running there, that will drive people down there, and it will organically create what Destination by Design has started, had a grand vision of. And at that point, maybe we're the first step of making that plan happen slowly, where we can revitalize the rails and trail, especially that area we know that there is some vagrancy issues down there.
Yeah.
And if we put lights on down there, it becomes a public safety issue now, where it's safer down there. People will want to bring their kids down there, and businesses can thrive and pay taxes. A lot of good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well-
And I think that's the whole point. The confusion would be is like, it's your all's project, but what are you asking us?
Well,
to
we
do?
don't own any of
Other
the
than try to
land.
get the utilities with
We don't
CSX.
own the land outside of the building facade. So any land that would to be developed along that trail has to be with city permission because we don't own that land. And if
Who owns it?
the city,
Okay, so we own it, okay.
So CSX gave us the trail, and then you get the right of ways, so we, if I understand correctly, own right up to the buildings, correct?
correct.
Makes sense, I got it. So I guess the thing that I still think of is like chicken and the egg, it wouldn't make sense for us to spend the money to do the sidewalks and everything else, and then you all, for some reason, back out or something, or don't go through with the project. Am I wrong? Is that, I don't know, I don't understand.
I mean, I would love
Like, that's why
to see
that's
it.
what the next
really
step, I would love to see it too, Mr. I think it'd be
Well, one,
phenomenal.
right, I mean, we've had to wait quite some time to get to the point where we even are able to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So now that we are here, these are some of the challenges that we have. If getting the water and sewer expanded, because there is existing water and sewer that goes to those buildings, but it doesn't carry the capacity that we're gonna need.
Sure.
So expanding that capacity is one ask, of how we go about to get that water sewer expanded. And then the next phase of this will be, we're gonna need to be able to get in and out of the buildings with egress and to have sidewalks and curbing. Initially, that was part of the plan that Destination by Design presented, which is now what sounds like it's gonna fall to us to take care of. So in looking at that, will we have the ability and your permission to be able to present these exterior scapes that will satisfy our ingress and egress out of the buildings, in and out of the buildings? And then I believe he was talking to some of these drains from the roof drains could be tied into the sewer system. So is it correcting some of those problems also as part of the project? So these are just some of the things that we've not had the opportunity to speak to you all publicly about. And so we're kind of making that a part of our current conversation.
Right.
And so, are you able to obtain funding? Do you have that support, that monetary support, so that if we make this investment, it's not just gonna sit there? If we do our part, it's not just gonna sit there and finish, is what I'm asking.
Correct. At the point that we would ask the city for funds to engage in those types of things, everything, of course, would be in place. We need to understand the scale and scope of what it is that we're doing on the exterior. If the city was already going to be developing this space, that would save us in, lighting costs and the sidewalks and curbing. If that is something that the city is not doing, then that is now a development cost. So, our scope and scale is shifting and changing as we're having this conversation, which is something we'll have to go back to the drawing board and figure out additional funding for.
I forgot to mention, the Department of Highways, they're putting in, repairing a tunnel bridge, is that what? Did you find out anything about that, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, if not, I'll call him and ask him.
Mitch shared with me that they're gonna be on the other side of the tunnel.
Okay.
They're not gonna be on our side of the tunnel.
Okay, all right, that's great, okay.
Have you talked to anybody about stormwater?
I've had some initial conversations with BSB about
Okay.
stormwater and what's gonna need to be done, and that was kind of the discussion of our roof drains tied to sanitary
Right,
sewer. We're
okay.
gonna have to deal with all of these things together, but all of this work's gonna happen within city right of way,
Right.
CSX right of way, needing those approvals to say, hey, can we figure this stuff out? Can we get these utilities taken care of?
Right.
I personally think it would be a good idea if the council reviews that destination by design plan,
Yeah, very
Okay.
good idea.
Okay.
prior to making any commitment here.
Those renderings that you showed us, was that part of what
Yes,
they
a lot
provided?
of the bulk of the exterior scapes were taken from the destination by design plan.
Okay.
Okay.
So with this email that you received, the city can request, or you plan on doing that? That consent by submitting a utility permit request?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you plan on doing that with them?
Yeah, as soon as I get Mr. Akers and Mr. Brown's drawings, I could submit it, yes.
From the email that you
Yeah,
received?
on behalf of on
Okay.
behalf of the council, yes.
Okay,
That shouldn't be a problem.
okay.
As far as utilities and stuff.
So is it necessary to look at the design from destinations, since there was nothing basically done with the design?
Well, it's just reference. I just thought it'd be a good idea to look at it.
Okay. No, I was just saying because it seems like they are asking for probably financial assistance with the sidewalks and the,
Well, I think we're a couple of phases away from that. I mean, obviously, any support that the city would like to give financially, we would certainly welcome. But-
because I'm saying that's what you thought was coming from the design and
Well, right, well, we
destination.
thought that you all were gonna be doing
Right.
the lighting along the trail.
Right, okay.
Which was part of the design. Now, without, that being developed by the city, you know, we've gotta put, well, it would be nice to have lighting along the rail to trail so that when it's public safety, and then it also, kinda helps to, create a barrier between the runners or the users of the trail and those that are utilizing the sidewalk space and the roadway. Because there is an active roadway that still goes through there that connects to Bench Lane if you're facing into the tunnel on the left-hand side. And that is a part of the plan, is not intending to close. So, you know, it's moving people, it's moving traffic and lighting it. Obviously, we have a terrible vagrancy problem down there. We have a set of storage buildings. They've stolen the doors off of all of the buildings. You know, they've broken in, they've stolen the electric out of all of the buildings that we have along there, except for the ones that are occupied with apartments. So, and then the last part, we still have the huge issue with the Lawson building, the white one that is, the roof is collapsed
The one that's leaning.
on it. And that building, we began this project 2 years ago. And at that point, the building was moving into condemnation. Donnie Morgan had sent the initial letters, and the engineer, former city engineer, then created hired an attorney to fight the action, and a lawsuit was supposed to be filed moving forward. And to my understanding, that has not been done to move forward in the condemnation of that space. It is, you know, vagrant animals are over there, the building is collapsed. If we're gonna be investing, you know, millions of dollars to develop that space, that building really needs to be either brought up to standard or taken the rest of the way down. Is there any indication as to where we are in that condemnation process?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you've talked to Captain Morgan about that.
Several
Have
times.
you had a conversation with him about that?
Many times, and he says that Attorney File was filing the lawsuit, and that's his only comment over the last 2 years as to where we are with that.
Yeah.
I don't think Mr. Morgan and I actually have gotten to the point of filing a lawsuit.
Are these
We will
out-of-state
follow
owners?
up on that. I haven't had any discussion with Mr. Morgan for some time on that
Are
building.
they out-of-state owners?
We can take that into police court and see if we can get the municipal judge to issue an order to require that building to be, if nothing else, secured, to keep vagrants out animals, et cetera. But as far as condemning or trying to buy that property or take that property, there's been no action toward that. That would take an action by council to decide whether we want to go that direction. But I agree something would have to be done to that building. There's no excuse for a building, as you described, having a
Right,
roof
I mean,
falling in.
we presented, I think, at the city planning and zoning, the complete roof structure, over 2/3 of the building is completely failed.
Yeah.
And it has caused us to have termite treatments because the rotting wood is just laying there in the dirt. I mean, it's a safety hazard as well. And this was a conversation that, we started 2 years ago. So
Sure.
motion on that would be.
I will get with
momentum.
Mr. Morgan when he returns from vacation, and we will get back with you on that and explain where we are and what steps need to be taken and what the time frame would be.
So,
And
sorry.
has anybody reached out to Mr. Lawson to see what he intends to do with that, or?
That is a very challenging question.
Okay.
For a very challenging person.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Go ahead, Natalie.
Well, we certainly appreciate, is there any more questions?
Natalie's gonna have
So
something.
the first thing that we need to do is get in touch with the utilities and see what the city, or see what we need to do to get that started. Is that right? That's what,
That would be
we
the
need to
next.
get that approved first.
Right, I think we've got if Mr. Gerald shares with me that link with the website that we've talked about, then we can develop those plans with the utilities of what's needed for CSX to meet those requirements, what the buildings need, and then we can present that to the city for review and approval, and then to submit to CSX for review and approval.
And in the meantime, we can be working on Lawson's building to get that.
Yeah.
Sounds like it needs to be taken down.
Oh, it's bad.
And how much funds would you request, a possibility, would you be requesting for the city, for the lighting and for the sidewalks?
I believe we need to do a little bit more studying and we can present a number back. That would be.
Was it in that, was it in that
It was-
presentation that you all talked about, was like a year ago? There was no cost, there was no cost?
The only cost associated was with the trails,
Okay,
not that particular trail, but the soft white trails.
okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Brown?
Let's just get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think we can get it
Well,
started.
at least we know what the next step is, we all
Is
agree.
there any way to let Kyle speak if he's able to?
No.
And I hate to put him on the spot.
No, the only person who was allowed to speak was Mr. Brown. He got invited to this work session.
But this is your,
This is the architect.
it is the architect.
So, yeah,
Just let him speak.
okay.
That's okay.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Tell me to be brief.
I mean, I just wanted to ask him,
Sure.
Councilperson Bullock asked, and I was gonna see if he had any, roundabout estimate as to what something like that would cost. And that's a very broad question, but considering there's a lot of different factors that are coming into play, but just to see if he had some sort of. Right.
Well, if he's not able to do it now, you could get an email from him
Yeah,
and let us know.
we can always get with him and get back, we don't want
You should be able to speak, so what do y'all tell them?
That's, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, sorry guys. Again, this is kind of put on the spot here. So, I think there's a couple different approaches here. So, what Destination by Design did for you guys is really awesome. There's a lot of things in that. And so, that alone, I guess the question is, what part of that are we trying to look for numbers on? Because, that was a complete resurfacing of that whole entire track area. That was lighting. It was sidewalks that people could dine outside on and curbing. And all that is a really, pretty expensive chunk of change. I also think that that's not the only way that these improvements can happen as well. I think that there's also a scaled down version of that that just provides a safe place for people to walk and adequate lighting throughout the trails. That could be a reduced number. So I'm not really quite sure, in terms of basically looking at, a number. I think that if you guys did everything from the rails to trail or the destination by design from the from the tunnel to with that main street out there. I mean, it's probably 1 to 2 million. On a very kind of scaled back version of that. You could be looking at somewhere close to 500,000 plus. Again, I think that destination by design, what they submitted was awesome. It's very it's very pretty, but I also don't think that's the only way to achieve the things that Brian and his team would need to make that a safe environment for patrons going down to that district.
Thank you, Kyle.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We know what the next step is. Mr. Joe, anything else on property management you want to go?
Yes,
Okay.
I provided you with, thank you, Mr. Brown, you, Mr. Akers.
Now we know where we need to start anyway.
Hello? Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Okay, if you look at your booklet here, after the email from CSX, you will have a list of vacant buildings within the city. And those are your utilities and insurance costs. And these are just for your all's review. I mean, we can't vote on anything or discuss. I mean, we can discuss it, but these are just vacant buildings and what it's costing you on a monthly basis. I mean, a yearly basis, I'm sorry. So it's just for your review. If you got any future questions, please ask me. Also attached, if you look at the next spreadsheet, you have a spreadsheet, and I had Ms. Chandler go back to when you purchased Black Knight to come up with your figures on profit and loss. If you look at the second page, that gives it to you per year, and that's your total loss since you purchased it.
Wait a minute, what's the total?
Then, on the second spreadsheet, I had, Ms. Chandler broke it out by the restaurant, and on the third sheet, by the golf. And it's surprising, it surprised me. But within these expenses, you had some very high dollar expenses to get it up and running, such as you had tree removal in excess of $100,000. So there is several of high dollar expenditures. So like I said, I'm not going to keep you here very long tonight. This is just for your information, and you may peruse it and come back with any questions you may have. Okay?
So we're looking at about
Any
6 million.
suggestions are welcome.
Are we
Beg your
looking at
pardon?
about 6 million in the red?
Well, if you include the original cost of the building, you're probably close to it. Yes. Within the list of items also on the original thing, it had the Welcome Center, the police precinct, the police now, East Park Museum, I also had a copy of the lease in there. And there is some confusion of who should be paying for the utilities. The lease says that the lessee shall pay for the utilities, but in the past, the leaseor has been paying for the utilities. And I just think the lease ought to be prepared in a way that it's clarified. So we either need to cancel this lease with them and renew the lease, or get this lease changed.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
So I'll leave that up to the discussion at the next council meeting, whatever you councilors want. But I wanted you to have the information, but I think that's one of the things we should discuss.
Let me ask you this, should it not have been amended anyway when the person that signed the lease passed away? I mean, would it not seem like somebody else would be
No,
in
I mean,
charge of it?
the lease is good. I mean, no. The organization is still under the West Virginia Secretary of State. So it's the organization that leased it, it's not the individual that leased
Right,
it.
okay.
Okay, all they did was had the signature.
Whoever signed that
Yeah.
from the center, West Virginia.
Can I have I'm sorry, I got a question.
I thought you were talking about
So,
he passed away too.
why are you changing the lease? Give me a
The
reason
lease,
why.
the lease plainly states that the leasee shall pay the utilities. The leaseor has been paying the utilities for the past, since 2011.
Okay.
The original lease was signed in 2007, then they renewed it, and I didn't know why they renewed it in 2011, because the lease that was signed in 2007 was for 20 years, and the lease that was signed in 2011 was for 20 years. So they signed it about 17 years early, or something of that effect. So anyway, the lease is good for, another 20 years? 2007, be another 2 or 3 years.
So
7 more
nothing
years, 7 more
changed,
years.
From
nothing,
2031.
nothing changed on,
It's still.
All we need
When
to
the
do
lease
is
was
clarify
signed
who
initially-
pays the utilities. That's all I'm
Right.
asking.
right.
Because in the
already
lease,
in
it's,
here.
huh?
It's already in here.
Well, it says that the person renting the place would be responsible for utilities, but the city of Beckley's been paying them.
Yeah, but
And just go by what's in the lease.
in saying that, in order for the building to pay the bills, no bills was ever sent to the building. We never.
Well, it's because it never got switched over. which is what
It
I'm
should
kinda
have
Okay,
been
understood.
paid.
if,
The leasee should have transferred them over into their name. When you take over a
Right.
property, you have to go to all the utility companies to get
And
it
switch 'em
transferred to
over.
your
The
name.
corporation should have had a PO box and it should have gone to
we
the
got a P.O.
corporation.
box. We have a P.O. box.
Yeah, like when me and my wife bought our salon, I had to go to each individual utility company and switch it from the previous owner's name into our name. Or if we didn't, then the previous owner would keep getting billed, and then at that point, we'd been in a lawsuit.
Right, it's basically the same thing if you rent a house to
Yeah.
someone. You're not gonna pay your tenants. If you're in the house and you rent it out to Sherry Hunter, my house up to Sherry Hunter, I'm not gonna keep paying the utilities. So, I mean, that's what the lease says, but I see what Mr. Gell's saying. If you all say that we should continue to pay the utilities, then we need to redo the lease.
And we were also told that it was a city building, correct?
It is a city building, yes it is.
Utilities are paid by the, I know what the lease says, but we were also told that we own the building, correct?
Right, but
City owns the building, yes. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, if no one else is paying it, but it just should.
City, somebody would have to pay the utilities or else they'd be cut off and the building would deteriorate.
So that's just something for discussion at the next council meeting,
Right.
possibly. I also included the ordinance pertaining to the sale of property, if you wanted to go that route. So I also included that. The home rule ordinance that you
I
had.
read that.
Whereas you can ask a real estate agent to put it on the market for fair market value, and you can also sell it for less than fair market value if you sell it to a nonprofit. So I included that ordinance in there.
Right.
Okay.
And I know you and I have discussed the Welcome Center, that we're not gonna open it this year, just due to the fact that very few people ever visited the place, so it wasn't like anyway, it just wasn't really worth it.
So really, as the council, I mean, I can recommend something, and y'all can vote against it.
Well, that's what I'm
Vote for it.
saying. Can we try to do one piece of property with the home rule and see how it goes? I mean, I know we already have somebody or actually a few people that's interested in purchasing the Welcome Center. But I know you and I talked about the survey done on it.
Well, you gotta provide clear title to it. So anything I buy or sell, I always have a survey done.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Oh,
you know, in
absolutely.
order to provide clear title to something, and you're not obligated, and say you sell a piece of property and it's not what it's supposed to be, then you're gonna end up getting it back or possibly getting sued. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have clear title to it and pay a few dollars to get it surveyed, and that way somebody knows exactly what you're getting.
So are you recommending for, let's just say the
Well,
Welcome
I
Center?
can't recommend anything here. This is just a
Well, okay,
work
but-
session, okay? I mean, I can put something up before the council at that particular point in time and say, I recommend that we dispose of this piece of property and you all vote on it. That's
Sure,
that's
if the
what you
council
can
to
do.
decide what to do, that,
Right. If you
Yes.
vote against it, that's totally
Sure.
different. That's up to
You
you
know-
all. So,
When we had the ceremony with the Naff family, when we were gonna open the Welcome Center, I know that was a lot of years ago. But, and I know it's been a point of contention because of it closed, and we didn't know it closed, and then we had bikes, and then some of the bikes helped with police things, so what happens to those bikes, and what happens to the investment of all of that going forward?
Currently working with Active Southern West Virginia to use those bikes. The Salvation Army knows that those bikes are available to them if they want to, like they did last summer, to come over and use those bikes. I did look at the inventory. I'm not exactly sure how many there are in there. Pardon? I know there's, well, and right at the end last year, well, at the beginning of it last year, 13 more were purchased. They are, like I said, we're trying to work out something with Active Southern West Virginia so it can be part of their program.
so I guess, Mr. Chair, what I'm saying is that we just need to decide what to do with these buildings, and you can't make a decision
well,
tonight,
what I can do is recommend what I think, and y'all can
and
vote or
council can vote for it.
yea or
against
nay.
it.
I mean,
Exactly.
That's your prerogative.
Can I make
So-
a statement on the community center on these board, cause that's involved me. But like I told y'all before, what if y'all decide to do with that building? It won't bother me one way or the other. The only thing that bothers me is the fact that I know the complaint was filed because Mr. Mosley lost the race. That's the bottom line. Number two, the information that was given to him through the city caused an investigation into me as far as fraud. I didn't like it, and I still don't like it.
Sure.
So
Your name's not on any of the leases or anything, though, is it?
it's, no, I wasn't part of it. I got on way after.
'Cause
I got on when they started remodeling the building. And I have never taken a dime. So the way I look at it, if I was, the fraud investigator from Charleston came, so it has fraud under his name, sealed and everything. If I committed fraud, that means for the past 2.5 years, everybody up here that was on council has committed fraud also.
Because he knew about it.
Because y'all knew it and
Exactly.
still paid the bills.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
that's how I stand on it. But that's,
I think it just needs to get what Mr. Jarrett said. You
I understand.
change
Change
the
the
lease, and
lease.
if you all
That's
want
it.
to vote to keep paying the utilities, that's your all's call. So, anyway.
I did not know
But
that
it-
Frank Williams was under investigation.
Let me
told us
point,
that.
let me say,
Councilwoman Bullock said the
Go
same
ahead.
thing too, until he told us,
Right. you did
Mayor,
that.
we had no
Right.
idea.
Anyway,
and we have not talked about that.
let's stay on topic.
But let me say one thing though, any documents given,
Mr. Fowl.
wait a minute,
Hold on.
well, let me just explain. Any documents given to Mr. Mosley by the city came through a FOIA or a Freedom of Information Act request that by law we were required to give him. We have never given him any document unless we were required to do so.
I understand
And the
that.
documents given would have been copies of the leases.
Okay,
So,
so let me ask you another question, Mr. Since you gave me a call, Mr. Phillip gave me a call, the gentleman did the investigation, said I was cleared. He also called you and told you I was cleared, right? Is that correct, sir?
are you asking me?
Yes, sir?
Yes, I had a call by the investigator for the auditor's office, the special unit that investigates allegations against any public official. That doesn't mean anybody's done anything wrong. It just means some citizen has filed a complaint. They investigated a complaint that had been filed with that office. And then I was notified by phone that they were not pursuing that complaint, that they had found nothing. And as far as they were concerned, that was the end of it.
So I was cleared.
Right.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
That
Thank you,
is
sir.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll continue on. The next thing on the agenda is opium funds. And what I did here is provided you with the memorandum of understanding pertaining to the opioid funds, so you would know the restrictions of what we're restricted to in providing the expenditure of these funds. So that is under the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding, General Principles. So you'll find that document within your work session documents. After that, you have the department, what we compiled by the departments on what they required, or what their suggestions was on spending some of the opioid monies. And it's titled Potential Opioid Fund Uses Compiled by City Departments. It's right after the memorandum.
Yes, how much money do we have total for opioid?
There's $3.4
$4
million
million
right now. It'll continue to come in a little bit at a time as each settlement comes through. So that'll continue to grow over the next few years.
And last month, we invested that $3.4 million in a money market account, which is drawing almost 5% interest.
It's awesome.
So those interest payments, those interest funds that's coming from the money market has to go back to the opioid funds. So you can't spend it on anything else.
Okay,
Even the interest
thank
off
you.
of it.
Right.
Okay.
Is there do they give like a amount of time before before you have to give it back, or is it? You just,
Well, you've had it over a year.
Well, I know that. We were talking
I
about
don't
that.
think there's anything in this
There's
specific
nothing-
document that gives you a deadline
Okay, so
on
it's not like
liquidating those funds.
It's not like we're going to be caught off guard like 3 months from now and be like, oh, we
but-
only get 6
but-
months to spend the money.
But when I read this document, we were supposed to have done a financial report on what we had spent this past year, and we haven't spent anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not for sure they're not keeping track of this very strict.
The Attorney General had mentioned the other day at a meeting I was at that if the cities don't start using the funds, that they will take them back. So
That's what I
we
was
need-
thinking.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
need to
reason.
be, looking at
Okay.
spending them.
And I also, after you got these compiled by the city departments, I think personally that we ought to take care of our own departments first and then go outside the organization, okay? So if we need police vehicles or drug vehicles or any of that situations, or Narcan machines or drug testing machines, I think we ought to buy those for the city.
Jessica, didn't the municipality buy cruisers though, when they were told that that wasn't a proper disbursement of opioid funds?
According to the West Virginia First Foundation, they've recently approved some police cruisers and have allowed it to go through. So it looks like they've maybe laxed up the
So-
guidelines
so
a little bit.
We're actually looking at the DARE vehicles. That's
Yes.
13 or
Yep.
15, 20 years old.
Yeah.
We just started back our DARE program, so we're looking at those. We're looking at a trailer that basically you go out here in the communities and do those types of preventions. So then, I went to the Raleigh County Board of Education, and I also received a letter yesterday evening of some of their needs. It's attached right after our department needs. So there is a letter from Dr. Serena Starcher from the Raleigh County Board of Education requesting funds from us. She also requested funds from the county, and they also have a spreadsheet on the back showing what she requested from us and then requested from the county. So they actually, and what they're actually footing the bills
And
for.
Say again, the potential opioid fund uses compiled by city departments. Who come up with that list right there?
That was the police department,
Police
fire
department, fire
department.
department.
Like our.
Yeah.
We sat
Yeah.
down,
Okay,
and we sat
okay.
down and talked.
Local,
Yep.
state.
No,
Yep.
it's right on top from our city department.
Yep.
I didn't know if it was like
Yep.
all kinds of cities in West Virginia. got
No,
that.
just our
No,
cities.
I'm saying
Yep.
ours.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
That's what I meant. City of Beckley.
So I have a question for the Beckley Fire Department. Every time there's a 911 call, it's an overdose, you guys go to the, right? You go, okay, so the cost of all of that could be brought back to
Funded,
opioids
yes.
and be able to reimburse the fire
Yes.
If we,
department?
as long as we can track it, yes.
If we can track it that detailed, then yes, we can do that, yes. Now, the very last thing on the agenda, so is contributions and donations, and what myself and just Mr. Chandler prepared was a list of people that asked for donations. And some of them we've already told no, some of them's not even registered with the West Virginia Secretary of State's office, which means they're not, don't even have a business license. So we checked those out. Some of them has come in late. We already prepared our FY26 budget, and we've actually told 2 or 3 of them that they was late this year, but possibly next year. So these are your budget figures. Some of them are state required. If probably on the second paragraph down, it's probably all required. In other words, New River Gorge development is required. Region 1 is required. Fayette Raleigh Metropolitan Planning Organization is required. New River Travel Council is West Virginia Code. Out to the right, it tells you whether they're required or not. And of course, the Raleigh County Convention Center, Raleigh County Commission. But anyway, there's your request for contributions and donations that we'll be asking you to vote on.
I will say that the Raleigh County Teen Court is listed on here, and after some discussion, it will not be. It's part of the funds that come through our tickets through our court system, so that one should not be on this list.
The actual program itself will be suspended.
So the Raleigh County Convention Center, it's the City of Beckley, the County Commission, and the Board of Education?
Yes.
So Phil, you could probably answer this. When
Yes.
the Board of Education has like a pre-K expo, do they pay the
Oh, yeah.
convention center?
We pay for basketball games.
Woodrow
We pay for
Society.
everything.
I wasn't much,
They do.
even though they own it, they still pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe how much they go in
Yes.
the hole for a Woodrow basketball game. Andrew Pennick told me about it, and all the other sports basically fund just for the basketball games.
Absolutely, we pay for everything.
It's crazy what they get
Yes,
charged.
ma'am.
Hey, Jessica, real quick on that same, I know that they put a new roof on and it's got 20-some
Yes.
years before it's paid off.
Yes.
But has that amount, the other amount, the 75,000, has that always been about?
Yes, maintenance.
We increased it, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, from 25 to 75.
What was the reason for that?
They were having a funding shortage and couldn't afford
See,
to
I think
survive.
that's
Yeah.
it. So it pretty much loses $375,000 a year, and it's subsidized by us and the Board of Education, the county.
Who determines what events come to there? Because I was thinking the other day,
Andrea,
I would say that.
because there's just no. I can remember going there once a month for events and stuff, and there's nothing there. Like the Globetrotters used to come.
so
Rodeo.
I mean, that's all we got now that I can think of. That is the rodeo. The rodeo comes
And-
twice a year, and that's
they
about it.
they have board meetings.
They got a board.
I've been to
I-
a few of them, and they
Yeah, it's
discuss the
tough, man.
financials of them, which I can't discuss.
Who's on the board here for the
Mr. Gerald's going.
I just got put on it.
Yeah,
I
there
haven't
there
been
was
to
a
a
guy,
meeting
there was
yet.
somebody else that we were not represented, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So we
I think
changed
Terry
that.
Miller's on the
Gary,
board.
Terry Miller's
Terry
one,
Miller's on our behalf,
Gary Sutphin,
myself,
and Marvin
and
Robinson.
Marvin Robinson.
And I asked
Yeah,
Marvin,
Marvin,
hey, I asked Marvin,
I
I was like, man, I'd like to be
I'm
on there.
gonna ask him for a
I said,
loan
"Did you-"
when I
I
go
said,
over.
Marvin, it's up to you, and he's like, I'll stay on.
but I'm gonna ask him for
But
a
now
loan
Mr.
when I
Gerald
go.
did recently get, he replaced somebody from West Virginia Tech, which is awesome. I mean, we're putting the money, it's our money that's
Yeah.
kind of helping.
But
helping
anyway,
them out.
I appreciate your time.
Wait a minute, I got one question, I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the, Humane Society, so they're requesting 120,000?
But they only got 63.
In the budget, yeah. We budgeted
Well,
for.
they didn't get everything they asked for.
Okay,
Not, after we review things, let's see. There were several of them that asked for additional funding. I think one of them was the, just for kids. I think they asked for 50, and we reduced it down to 25.
And the
And-
health department was the other one.
And the health department asked for 56, and we reduced it down to 47. So
Me too.
And Mr. Gerald, as a point of reference, we were talking about opioid money. The city council in Huntington, did you hear that on Metro News? They voted to approve funding to help their
Home shelter.
Home shelter.
homeless shelter. Yeah.
I'm sure
I did
we
not
all
hear
have
the mail.
different ideas of what we'd use it for. We talked about having a workshop. I'm sorry, Sharon.
Well, let me say this also, within that agreement, I think that the council has to approve every expenditure that
Sure.
goes
Oh,
out
yeah.
on that
Absolutely.
opioid. So, we're not,
Well, we talked about, I think we talked about it several times, about having a workshop and everybody kind of doing their homework and getting together and
well,
just kind of saying.
that's what this workshop's for.
Yes, and that's
That way,
that's
that way I
helpful.
provided you what information we have to this point.
That's
And then
super
we can
helpful.
later on schedule another workshop for this particular opioid
Yes.
funds. But, I just wanted to keep you informed,
Appreciate it.
of what's going on, and like you said, I wanted some kind of input about the buildings and those types of things.
Sell 'em.
Thank you.
I would just do one at a time. I mean, it's just my opinion. Whatever council decides to do.
Well,
I would start with the welcome center. We've got people who are interested in it.
Okay.
Get the survey done and
I drove
present
through
to council
town.
and see if they want to.
What's that?
Fruits of labor just looks sad sitting there. It just looks sad. We need something in there. Or somebody needs to be given a really good deal.
You guys are-
You're trying, aren't you, Mr. Gerald? You're trying to find somewhere.
What you got, Lisa?
I really, I
The
mean,
homeless shelter's closing too. I think their last day is May 30th.
so we'll have that building.
And Mike
That's all-
Warren
that belongs to us
has
too.
handed in his resignation.
Oh,
Mike
Lord.
Warren has. So I don't know if they're gonna close it early because he's not here, so.
Man.
So they didn't approve the funding for the homeless shelter? Okay.
There's another building we'll have to.
Yeah, we got another building there. I don't know what you'll get out of that.
Is that it, Mr. Gerald?
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank my department heads for being here also.
All right, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Second. Thank you.
You still it already?